Hey kids, welcome to lesson 9.7, Object Superclass. The object class is the superclass of all other classes in Java, and part of the built-in java.lang package. If a parent class isn't specified using the extends keyword, the class will inherit from the object class. What does a class inherit from the object class? Well, here at the AP CSA quick reference sheet lists the two main methods that are used the most, toString and equals object from the object class at the bottom, which are covered in more detail below. What this is really saying is you inherit a lot from the object class, but we're really just going to focus on two because really, well, that's what you're going to see on the exam. We have our toString method first. One commonly overridden object method is a toString, which is often used to print out the attributes of an object. It is a good idea to write your own toString method in every class. In a subclass, toString can call the Superclass toString method using the super toString and then add its own attributes, which is really helpful. In the following code, the person class overrides the object toString method, and the student class overrides the person toString method. They each add on their attributes. After trying the code below, complete the subclass called APStudent that extends student with a new attribute called APScore, and override the toString method to call the Superclass method and then add on the APScore. Uncomment the APScore object in the main method to test it out. Let's look at our code here first. We have a public class person. It has an instance variable name, which is a string. It has one constructor, name. Name is being set to this name. We have our toString method, which is returning the name. We have our main testing method here. We got to uncomment some stuff. We'll come back to that in a minute. We have class student, which is extending person, this class up here. So it's bringing down name. It has a new private instance variable ID. It has two constructors, name and ID. It's pulling the name down from above, and the ID is just set to ID. It is overriding the toString method from above, and it's adding ID to the end. Then we have a class AP student, which is extending student. We're getting this and move down. We're adding a score to this one. We're doing super name and ID from above and adding score. And then we're setting a score to this score. Well, what do we have to do here? We have to do a toString method that calls up here. And we're basically going to do the super toString just like this, except we're going to call to our score variable now. Before we go ahead and start adding to this, let's hit run and see what actually prints off. We get Celia and Tali. And if you look over here, we're printing off Celia, Tali, 1001. Keep adding another parameter. And we're going to do this one here. So let's go ahead and uncomment that. And really what we're doing is we can really just copy this part here, come down here, and paste. We are not going to do ID though. What are we going to do? We're just going to do score. And now when we go to print off, we should get Anya, 1002, and 5. Well, let's see if that's what happens. You can see that's what we get. So this is just a way, again, of getting all of those things from that superclass down to the subclasses. I'm pretty sure we're going to use this down in our last programming challenge of the course, kids. Next, we have the equals method. One of the more important things that gets inherited from the object superclass is the equals object method. This method is used to test what the current object is and if the past object that is being called is equal. But what does that mean? As seen in the code below, the equals method that is inherited from the object class only returns true if the two objects refer to the same object. Remember all the way back to our turtle days, kids, we have to refer to the same object. Let's guess what happens here when we print this off. If you come down here, we have a public class person, private string, which is name. The constructor is the name. We're just setting this name to the name. We have our testing method down here. We have person1 equals new person, Kieran, Jewel, and Kieran again. And we have P4 equals P3. P3 is Kieran. Well, that means P4 is equal to Kieran. What we have here is P1 equals a P2. Well, does Kieran equal Joel? That should be false. Does P2 equal P3? Does Joel equal Kieran? No, that should also be false. Will P1 equal P3? Well, even though they're both Kieran, they're both new objects. P4 is equal to P3. Is P3 equal to P4? It is. Means we should get false, 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 true. Let's see if we're right. False, 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 true. That's just showing the difference between having something that's similar and the actual object. The equals method inherited from the object class only returns true when the two reference points to the same object as shown in the code above. That means it'll only return a true if it's actually pointing to the same objects. That's it. Overriding the equals method. If you want to change how the inherited equals method works, you can override it so that the new method is called instead of the inherited one. The string class overrides the inherited equals method to return true when the two objects have the same characters in the same order as shown in the code below. Try to guess what the code will print off before running it. We have a string here, S1, saying hi with a lowercase. S2, hi with a uppercase. S3 is a new string that is hi. And it's going to ask, does S1 equal S2? No. Does S2 equal S3? Well, it looks the same, but again, one's capitalized, one's not. S1 equal S3. Well, in this case, we're going to override that, and that is going to be actually true. I think that means we should get false, false, true. And we get false, false, true. Why is that? Well, any class can override the inherited equals method by providing a method with the same method signature, method name and parameter list, as a return type. The provided method will be called instead of the inherited one, which is why we say that the new method overrides the inherited method. So it technically doesn't. It's more of a sleight of hand. The person class below overrides the inherited equals method. Try to guess what the code will print off before running it. Let's look at the code here. We have our public class person. We have a instance variable name, constructors the name. Over an equals method that checks if the names are equal, if the person object and the other object are. So we have our boolean true or false. And this is checking an object other. We're typecasting to other to a person. So person other the person equals a person other. checking if the names are equal then. Well, this name equals other person name. Then we have some testing methods here. P1, new person Gabe. P2, new person Gus. P3, new person Gabe. P4 equal P3. And then we're going to see if P1 is equal to P2, P2 is equal to P3, P1 equal to P3, and then P3 equal to P4. Woo, that's a lot. Let's go one at a time. Does Gabe equal Gus? No, it does not. So that should be false. Does Gus equal Gabe? No, it does not. So that should be false. Now remember, we're overriding this now. Does P1 equal P3? So this is checking if Gabe equals Gabe. And those are new objects. So in this instance, it's going to be true. And then does P4 equal P3? Well, it's creating a new object of itself, so that should be true as well. We should get false, false, true, true. False, false, true, true. And this is just showing it. And again, if you're getting confused, kids, jump over the visualizer. It helps out a lot. To write your own equals method, you must use the public boolean equals object other method signature. Typecast other than your class name. Return whether this object's attributes equals the other object's attributes with the equal for primitive types like int and double, or equals for reference types like strings or another class. And that is just showing that right there. If you need to check multiple attributes, for example, the name of an address for person objects, you can use the and to combine tests. I'm just showing that right there. And kids, these are all hints to our programming challenge. If you're writing an equals method for a subclass, you can call the superclass equals using the super keyword to check if the attributes in the superclass, and then check the attributes in the subclass. And that's what that's checking right there. Well, let's get to our last programming challenge here, kids. Savings account. And I know what you're thinking. Mr. Rhodes, there's a unit 10. Well, kids, if you look ahead, there's coding we do, but no programming challenges. This is actually the last one. Well, let's do it together. In the following code, a bank account class contains the account holder's name and the money balance in the account. Work in pairs to write the following code and test each part before moving on to the next step. And what are we going to do? Well, we got 4 things. We're going to write a subclass called savings account that extends account and adds interest rates that are variable. We're going to write a constructor with 3 arguments, name, balance, interest rate for the savings account class that uses the super constructor. We're going to write a toString method for savings account that returns a call to this superstring toString method and the interest rate. And we're going to write an equals method for savings account that calls a superclass equals method and checks that the interest rates are equal. Complete the subclass savings account below, which inherits from account and adds an interest rate variable. Write a constructor with 3 arguments, a toString and an equals method for it. Uncomment the code in main to test your new class and methods. Let's stretch this out here. Let's take a look at our code. We have a public class account, 2 instance variables, name and balance, setting them equal. Our string is returning a name plus a balance. We have our boolean equals our object other, and this is account, and our other account equals account other, and returning this balance and seeing if that is equal to the account balance and if the name equals the other account name. So we're just seeing if they're equal. We have our main test here. We have a new object we're creating, account 1. This is Armini Smith. They got $1,500, and then we're printing off their account. Looks like Dakota Jones has some new savings accounts here. We have to print off. We have to uncomment. Down here, we have to write a savings class which inherits from accounts and has an interest rate and a constructor, toString, and equals a method. Woo! Let's see what we have to do here. Well, let's start off with the easy part, right? Let's do our extends. So extends account. So that takes care of the first part. Let's skip over the interest rate for a minute. Let's do our constructor. Remember, we need 3 things: the name, the balance, and the interest rate. And 2 of them we're using the super for. We need to make that interest rate variable first. So let's do a private double, and this is going to be interest rate. Now we're going to do our constructor for that, public savings account. And this is going to be a string, and it's name, double B, and double, and this is going to be what for interest rate, we'll do R. Come down here. Now we have to get our name and balance from up here. So we are going to super our name and balance, N and B. Means we're going to have super. We have to get that name and balance. Now we just have to get our interest rate equal to our constructor. And we'll come up here. Let's tab that over like that. Well, that takes care of our constructors. The next thing we should probably do is our interest rate. And if you look up here, this is really giving a great example of what we have to do. So we're going to do the same thing. Public boolean equals object other, because we're going to look to compare. And if you read from above here, we want to get it so that the savings account would be written down here. And we're going to do other account. And then we're going to do savings account other. So just like account, but we're going to be doing a savings account. And we want to return not this, we want to return the super. But we also want to see if they are equal. That means we're going to do return super equals. And we just want to look through the account or our other account. And we want to see if the interest rate is equal to the other interest rate that we have. So if you see here, we're looking to see if this name equals account name. We're just going to see if this interest rate equals the account interest rate. So we're going to take this, pretty much copy and paste it, and we're just pretty much going to put savings account and interest rate instead of name. Well, that's it. Let's give ourselves a little space here. This is going to be our interest rate. And if we come down here, we're going to do just like above, our public boolean and equals. And this is going to be our object other, just like above. And again, we got to talk through it. So just look at that sentence above, and we're just going to write it out. Savings account, and that's our other account we're looking in. And we're seeing if that's equal to savings account. Now, we want to return if that equals, right? So we're going to use super equals and then other account. And we want to check to make sure that the interest rates match. So we're going to get this interest rate, that variable we created down there. Should spell that right though, kids. And we're going to see if this equals other account dot interest rate. And this should return true or false if the interest rates match. Now, it's not going to return anything yet because we got to still do our toString method. So I'm going to come down here and let's do our toString. And let's do our public string to string. And let's return. Remember, we want to do the above. So we're doing a super toString. And we are going to do our interest rate. Woo, that's a lot, kids. Seems like a lot of math, doesn't it? Well, you've made it this far. You should know this is almost all math. So what do? Well, we extended our class. We got a constructor with 3 variables. We have our toString and our interest rate equals method. Now, we got to uncomment here. Now when we print off, we should get Dakota Jones 1500 4.5. And remember, that's just the interest rates there. And we're going to print off account 2, and we're going to see if account 2 equals account 3. I think it's going to print off true. So we should get Armini, and then Dakota, and then true. Let's see our spelling errors first, kids. Line 54, our big long mess. I'm sure I typed a lot wrong in there. Let's bring this down so we can actually read it. And our error was saying there. Let's take a look. Make it a little easier to see. And I can see I got a C that shouldn't be. And, well, I can see O should be a lowercase. Let's see what else we got while we're here. This interest rate, another account, interest rate. I think that might be it. Let's see, kids. Armini Smith, 1500, Dakota Jones, 1500, and the interest rate, and true. So that just checked to make sure those objects were equal. Pretty neat if you ask me, kids. Well, that brings us to our summary. The object class is the superclass of all other classes in Java and part of the built-in java.lang package. The following object class methods and constructors, including what they do and when they are used, are part of the Java quick reference. There's the string toString and the boolean equals. And kids, this is really what you need to know for the exam, so make sure you understand it. Subclasses of objects often override the equals and toString methods with class-specific implementations. And hopefully, you understand a little more about the superclass and how objects are inherited in your code. As always, if you have any questions, come see me, kids. Otherwise, I'll see you in our last unit. See you later, kids. Bye. Bye.